Ooh, what's going on? What's going on? So, I guess Devin Haney speaking about Gervonta Davis again, and which I never have any issue with anybody having their viewpoints on things, but especially if you're a promoter or if you're a boxer, you better be on that same keel as it pertains to yourself. Devin Haney, I guess what he said was that Gervonta Davis, he doesn't believe that they'll ever put him in there versus somebody that's any real competition. That it's always going to be somebody that they believe that that Gervonta Davis is going to beat. And my feelings on that is that if you have that philosophy, that's fine, that's cool, but you better be setting up better fights than this man. Just due to the fact that you have a promoter, that you have one of the top promoters in the world. That's who you're working with in Eddie Hearn. That's number one. Number two, he definitely has the backing, especially with the zone and that big deal that he has. And he showed that he's willing to put up funds. Like when it came to Ramirez, he had Ramirez come over to the zone, as Timothy Bradley would say, Ramirez, like Tom Brady, Timothy Bradley would say. They had him come over there to take on Hooker and paid him $4 million. They had Lomachenko come over there to face Campbell. They paid him $5 million. They had Mikey Garcia come over there. They paid him $7 million to take on Jesse Vargas, who they paid $3 million to. And now Mikey Garcia might be fighting over there again for $7 million. So this guy has the funds, to spend. He has the money to spend. So it's all, Canelo Alvarez was supposed to take on the Caleb Plant previously. He talked to Canelo Alvarez and got him out of fighting Caleb Plant, brought him over to the zone, paying him $20 million plus. So he has those funds. So the question is going to be, is he willing to invest those funds into you? As it pertains to the fights that Gervonta Davis has had. Even though he's a knockout artist, even though he was flatlining everybody, he still was able to get Pedraza, who was undefeated and the top guy, to 130 pounds to fight him. That's what his promotional company was able to do. Then they got him a fight against, Santa Cruz, someone who a lot of people believe that ducked Rick Indiao and ducked Gary Russell Jr. Those two guys couldn't get him in the ring. Decorated champion who's been around for a long time. They were able to get that fight done. Anticipated, people, really wanted to see that fight, were really intrigued in what was going to happen, while you were fighting Gamboa, somebody that Gervonta Davis had already beat, had just stopped. Guy had tore his Achilles tendon, had just taken a whole year off. You were the first fight back, and that's who you were fighting. The same Gamboa that you personally and your father trashed Gervonta Davis for fighting when he had faced him. And then the next fight after that, you're taking on a guy that, in Linares, that had come off losses, had been knocked out a whole bunch of times. That's you. That's who you were taking on for your fight. Gervonta Davis, they figured out, hey, go up to 140 pounds. Let's take on this Barrio character, who was one of the top 4 guys at 140 pounds. Tall, strong, powerful, arm length, everything, where you're going to have a substantial amount of disadvantages that you're going to have to deal with. From weight, height, reach, power, everything. A fight that people are extremely intrigued about. That people talked about for a week plus after it was done. People are still talking about that fight. Incredible fight. Where he showed resilience, he showed his intelligence, ability to make adjustments, and stop that man. Incredible performance. People aren't talking about your fight, Linares, the way that they're talking about his. So there comes a point where you need to make moves. Got a point where you got to stop playing checkers and start playing chess. You had the opportunity to set up fights with Gary Russell Jr. Didn't get it done. Try to penny pinch or whatever it was. Didn't get it done. When it came to a fight with Lomachenko, I guess all of a sudden, he had taken his loss and you started communications with him, and he's talking about like, yo, let's, send me something. And you were talking about how, you sent him a offer. It turned out that was a lie. You never sent him an offer. And the reality was, even if you did send him an offer, your team made it clear it was going to be, it wasn't going to be anything major, because he, quote, had lost his spot in boxing. He wasn't the same fighter. He didn't have the same cachet anymore. So instead of, running into these two situations and doing everything that you could to make the fights happen, you wanted to penny pinch and you wanted to play the big dog and pump your chest out, and you end up losing both the fights. And then, now it's like the question comes out, what exactly you're going to do next now? You had Teofimo Lopez sitting there at one point, undisputed, where he was like, give me $10 million. And you laughed and golfed at him and only offered him $3 million. Even though you've offered all these other guys substantially more money for lesser fights, for undisputed, on the zone, they offered him $3 million. And he was able to get those same kind of funds, more than that, for the Kambosos fight. From another entity. And it was able to then route that off into Top Rank giving him a brand new deal where he's going to get paid substantially more money and look like he's going to be doing a pay-per-view event with the guy that you said was nothing anymore in Lomachenko. As if other people are playing chess while you continue to play checkers. Because everybody else is playing chess while you consistently continue to play checkers. So comes a time where you have to make a big move. You look at somebody like what's his name? Deontay Wilder. Same issue. Certain guys wouldn't fight him. But he got whatever fights that he could get. Then after that, when the fight with Tyson Fury, came knocking, and it was a fight that could be done, he got it done. He didn't say, oh man, you don't have the same cachet as you had before. You were gone for all this time. Look how long you've been gone for. You've been gone forever. Look at your last 2 fights were on YouTube. What are we talking about? No, he said, I'll give you 50-50. Let's make this happen. Let's eat together. Let's go. And he made the fight happen. And we saw what that fight did for his career. When it came to Luis Ortiz, that was available. He didn't sit there and say, oh, well, no one wants to fight you and this and that. No, they did what was necessary to make that fight happen, to make it happen. And that ended up being a big fight. Then later on, he ended up fighting Luis Ortiz again when they did 350,000 pay-per-views, where he was guaranteed $20 million into that fight, guaranteed $20 million versus Dominic Brazil. It was all because he was willing to, when opportunities came to him, he made sure he took advantage of them. When it came to Earl Spence, it was the same thing, knocking everybody out, but certain guys wouldn't fight him. But he kept doing this fight. So when that opportunity came with Mikey Garcia talking about, I see something, he took it. He did what was necessary to make that fight happen. And it's been pay-per-views ever since. They're playing chess. Again, while you're doing what? Playing checkers. You consistently continue to play checkers while everybody else is playing chess. So now, again, the question becomes, who exactly you're going to fight? Teofimo is probably going to do the Kambosos fight, if that fight even happens, make a substantial amount of money off that. And then after he's done with that, he has a pay-per-view versus Lomachenko coming up. In a rematch. Look at somebody like a Deontay Wilder. He got a big, huge match coming up right now with Tyson Fury. Because when it came time to make the right moves, he made the right moves. Well, if that fight happens, we don't know about Tyson Fury. But because he made, and look at Earl Spence about to take on Manny Pacquiao. Because he made the right moves at the time when it was time to make them. Continuously playing chess while you and your team continue to play checkers. Tevin Farmer had an deal with the zone was done. Mayweather Promotion offered him $2 million to come and take on Gervonta Tank Davis on a pay-per-view. Eddie Hearn told him to turn that down. Said $2 million isn't even a starting point. He didn't use that as leverage and get Tevin Farmer a bigger deal with the zone. No, they just went to the zone, fought for $500,000. Tevin Farmer lost. He hasn't fought since. You got Demetrius Andrews has gone there. Everybody on the roster hasn't got any of them, even though they were all signed out to Eddie Hearn. So it's like at this point you gotta make a move. You can't just consistently keep screaming about, oh, people don't want to fight me, oh, they're just all scared. All the A, B, and C level fighters seem to be they're all just scared. At some point that gets old. I don't know who Gervonta Tank Davis is gonna fight next. I don't know who it's gonna be. But I know it's gonna be a bigger fight than Devin Haney is gonna set up though. I know it's gonna be a fight that's gonna be anticipated, that people are gonna be looking forward to, that people are gonna be hyped up about. And I know that because that's all they've shown me. That's all they've been showing me. They've been one-upping each other, upping each fight. When you're sitting there wondering what the hell they're going to do. Like, what are they going to do? Who are they going to fight? Yet they still found ways to up it up, to bring it to another level. And because they're playing chess, and that's what Devin Haney and his camp are going to have to start doing. That's if they really truly want to, prove that they're best or prove what they're truly made of. Put those funds up. Put those funds up when it's time. And get fights done. And if that means coming up to 140 in order to do it, then go up to 140 to make a fight happen. Shoot, offer Taylor $15 million to come on DAZN and fight what's to go Devin Haney for undisputed fight at 140 pounds. Do something crazy like that. Make a move, make that financial sacrifice that you're willing to make with all these guys that aren't even aren't even signed to you. Yet the kid that is 22 years old, is young as hell, has a good 15 years ahead of him, doesn't abuse his body, seems to be very disciplined when it comes to taking care of himself. You're not investing in that kid? Then it makes you wonder. At the question is like, do they really want him to face, be put into dangerous situations himself? Or do they want him to just keep growing, keep building up his name, keep, talking about these other guys, but when somebody presses the issue like a Gary Russell, let's maneuver around it like they did Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. Let's just maneuver around it, and keep on a particular plan that they have set for him, even though they quote make it seem as if they want all these big fights. Is it maybe something like that? Where then when he's at 24, 25, 26, he's grown more, he's gotten stronger, he's gotten more experience, and something comes up that's financially major where he's going to come out with 20, 30 M's, then you make that big move. Because if that's the case, then they are playing chess. Because they're playing that model that Eddie Hearn likes to go with, that Matchroom likes to go with. Following the pattern, of pretty much all the fighters over there, especially the major fighters. Because if that's the case, then, you're obviously following a plan, which I personally believe is what's going on. But if it's not, and I'm not saying he's scared, people get all butthurt. Oh, you see, he ain't scared. I'm not saying he's scared. I'm saying he's with a promoter, that has a certain way of doing things, has a certain blueprint, and they're following that blueprint. And they believe that long term, he'll end up being very successful, financially, and then later on he can get into a major fight where when he puts himself in those dangerous spots, he's greatly rewarded for it by the tens of millions of dollars. Which is it? If that's not the case, then gotta make a move. Can't keep making excuses forever. It's getting old. Time to do something. Like, subscribe, share. I'm out.